evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore podcast, your Newcastle United podcast on the Evermore YouTube channel. We've had a cracking week. Nottingham is a name on the lips, and I've been joined by some merry men to take me through the podcast tonight. Who needs Jay Lings when you've got Jay Lynch? He's in the house. We've got Evermore's very own Lois Lane roving reporter Daniel Wales, and the man with the voice as smooth as a Bruno through ball. It's Di Reese. How are you, boys?
Chris, that was phenomenal.
What an intro. Absolutely brilliant.
I just need to take like 10 seconds to appreciate what you've just done there.
I was going to say, mate, yeah, I'm in the mood to hype tonight, mate. I'm in a hype man mood tonight. I had a few lined up and I couldn't decide which one to go for. So I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to go for all of them. And they're all going in. They're all going in the pot. So absolutely brilliant. But yeah, we've got loads of stuff to get stuck in tonight, boys. We're live as well. So jump in the comments as always, as Davey has. Good evening to you too, Davey. Good to have you on board, mate. Just fly the comments in, guys. It always helps us engage and it really helps the channel flow as well. Just before we get stuck in, a little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already, please click that like and subscribe button. It's just down by the double D's there, Di and Dan, as you can see. Smash the notification bell, and you'll not miss any videos, whether it be the live shows or whether it be the Rumour Has It uploads that we do. We are over 1,500 subs now, thanks to you wonderful people. We're 1,581, I think, as I speak right now. So help us get to that 1,600. It'll be absolutely awesome if you do. Got a couple of the comments coming in, even at you too, Mark. Good to see you, buddy. No more red sauce tonight, mate. That was a bit of a wild one last week, I tell you. And no glowing evangelical even lights from me tonight. So get my teeth right there. So and even to Jody Toon for life as well. So let's get stuck straight in, boys, with a puntastic tag here. Thanks to Mark, who isn't on the channel tonight. Sheriff of Nottingham, as we battered Nottingham Forest. I'm going to come to you first. Dan, obviously, what a great result, mate. Great opening day and an absolute screamer from the gorgeous Swiss centre-half himself, mate.
Oh, he really is a dreamboat, isn't he?
He is. Oh, my God. Handsome. Dan. Nearly as handsome as Di. Nearly. Just nearly.
No, hey, Chris, I'll be honest with you. It was a brilliant start to the season. Nottingham Forest, I'll start with them. I mean, they weren't up to much. Let's be honest here, they weren't up to much at all. They looked like a team of 11 individuals and not a unit in any sense of the word. Now, yes, I mean, I half expected that, to be honest, because of the amount of players they've signed this summer. You thought, are they going to have gelled in time? And the answer was quite categorically no. But saying that, Newcastle, as bad as Nottingham were, Newcastle were really, really good. And as much as Nottingham, they tried to sit back, they tried to pop the bus, they tried to get men behind the ball, make it difficult for Newcastle. And yet we still found the space, which was really, really encouraging, the fact that we managed to do that. And it just shows that Eddie Howe has managed to get Newcastle playing in such a style where we can penetrate teams, we can get in down the side, we can get in the gaps, we can get in the channels. And our football is just so much better to watch and easier on the eye than it ever was in the past, God knows how many years. And I mean, yes, we have the players to do that. We'll get onto the likes of another dreamboat in Bruno soon enough. I'm guessing. But he was phenomenal. Joe Linton as well, and I'd like to mention Joe Willock because I thought he ran his socks off as well. Obviously, you've got the front three. They did what they did. Miguel Almiron, big shout out to him. Yes, he should have taken more chances, but apart from that, I was very, very impressed. He ran his absolute socks off. Never stopped running. And as much as Bruno, did the work in the midfield, Almiron was making those runs for him and he picked them out every time. And so those two working together, I thought was a really, really good partnership. All in all, it was just a brilliant performance. Credit to the lads. And, we're going to win everything.
I love it when we don't get too hysterical on the podcast, mate. Well done.
And I get called sensational.
You are sensational, though. I'm coming to you in a minute. You're going to fly out with a sensational comment here. But Mike Ells hit a low blow to Forest. They played like we used to under Steve Bruce. My God, Mike, you'll be giving them nightmares. Just coming to you, Lynch, man. Obviously, Jesse Lingard was a name that was mentioned a lot by Sky and everybody else, and all the Forest fans were keen to see what he did. He did come up with a new dance move. It was called the fuck all, and he did it very well the entire game, mate, wasn't it? Because he was shite compared to our midfield.
He was awful. I mean, what are they paying him? 200 grand a week. I mean, absolutely atrocious performance. And look, just to summarize again what Dan said, that was easily one of the most comfortable wins I think I've ever seen. I predicted 1-0 on last week's show. I thought it might have been a bit of a cagey game. Newly promoted teams are usually quite difficult to play against, especially on the opening weekend. I mean, you look at what Fulham and Bournemouth did on Saturday. but it was a far cry from that. They were shocking. Again, easily one of the worst Premier League teams I've seen at St James's Park. And if they continue playing like that, they are nailed on to go down. A lot of things have to change at that club for them to stay up. I mean, I think their manager's a very good manager, but he's getting nothing out of those players. He got nothing out of them. I don't know what they did in pre-season, but who have they got this weekend? Does anyone know?
West Ham.
Yeah, West Ham.
They're gonna lose that again, aren't they? But look,
So.
there was a bit of frustration at halftime. I think if you're a Newcastle fan, in terms of we had so much possession, so many chances, we just couldn't finish them off. I mean, I think Joe Linton probably summed up that first half perfectly when he took it past virtually half of their team and then just trickled it wide. But look, second half, different story altogether, and it could easily have been 5 or 6. Were very, very good. It was a complete midfield performance, really, from the three, especially Bruno. I mean, he set such a high standard for himself now. It's a rarity when he isn't the best player on the pitch. I've got to say it was a decent debut for Nick Pope. I was pleased to see him starting over Dubravka, but he didn't have anything to do, did he? I was disappointed not to see Botman starting, but again, you've got to give Dan Burn credit for another very good performance. I probably would have liked to have seen Elliot Anderson come on at some point. I would have, maybe liked to have seen him given 20 minutes or so. But look, I am being a little bit picky here. Special praise for me, I'm going to single out Maximin. I thought he was outstanding. He looked focused. He was a consistent outlet on that left-hand side, much more willing to pass the ball than I've ever seen him before. And it looked like he was doing exactly what Eddie Howe has been asking all of the players to do, play as a team. And he did that, and he's proved from that game alone, he's still a real asset to this side and still got a lot to give. Look, you could have given man the match to several players. Cher's goal was just incredible. He's got that in his locker. He scored a virtual identical goal against Burnley. It was 3 years ago. And that really was a turning point in the game. After that, we could have had, as I said, 4 or 5 more. But you settle for the 2-0. Lovely goal from Wilson at the end. Great technique to lift it over Henderson. Overall, very happy. Great performance. Clean sheet. It was the perfect start of the season. And just finally, amazing atmosphere. I was at the game. Wor Flags again with an incredible display pre-kickoff. I think we'll have to mention that. It's a new dawn. It's a new life. It's a new day. It's a new life. It summed up the mood perfectly.
Brilliant. Who was your standout, Di, in watching the game? Again, were you disappointed that Botman didn't start? And who was your kind of standout player, mate?
Yeah, I wasn't too disappointed that Botman didn't start, to be honest. I think Burn and Cher have proved that they can play well together, and I think it's a sign of how far we've come and what is, our future holds, that we're not in a position where we need to throw our new signings in and hope that it sticks straight away. I think it's great that he's being drip fed, if you like, into the Premier League, and he came on when he needed, when we switched to 3 at the back temporarily, again, just to do a job to see the game out. So no, I wasn't disappointed. I think he will end up replacing Burn in that back 4 gradually as the season goes on. So I think that will come as it did with Bruno. For me, it's difficult to talk about standout players, really, because we were all great. I don't think we were necessarily, as always, I'm the miserable one, but I don't think we were as good as
pragmatic, mate.
Pragmatic, that's the word. I don't think we were as good as some are making out, purely because Forest were absolute shite. And they allowed us to dominate the game. They allowed us to dictate the game. I think I could have had a decent game in centre midfield there. The amount of time and space that some of our lads had was criminal, really. So I think all told, it's difficult to pick one. Were I to do so, it's got to be Joe Linton for me. I just flat out love the bloke. And I think the 2 key things for me in the game were, first and foremost, the way we were pressing and pushing high up the pitch. We were snapping into everything. Even when it was 2-0, the game's dead, we're still pressing and harrying, kicking lumps out of people, so physical and strong across the team. And Joe Linton kind of epitomised that, I think. I think it was a great performance from them. Like I say, especially the pressing. I think the highlight for me, really, is that there's more to come. I think, as I say, I don't think it was an outstanding, but we were very good. If Miggy has got a right foot, we probably do beat him 5 or 6, as James says. So there's improvement to be had there. It's also worth remembering we did get done on the break. Nico Williams has put a great ball in. I think it's Sturridge who probably should do better. He heads straight into the ground. Maybe if that goes in, it's a bit different. So it's worth remembering that against another side as well. So I think for me, the highlight is almost that there's still room to grow, and we've still got people to come in. And, you never know. I'm sure we're going to talk about it on the transfer talk in a bit, but there's also definitely room for others to come into this first team and improve it as well. So as happy as I am with the performance and the result, which was obviously great, there's definitely room still to grow. And I think that's the thing that excites me the most.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to be fair as well to Burn, talking about Botman not starting, I was thinking Botman was going to start. I even put him in my bloody fantasy football team and he didn't start. So I'm the curse, I think. But I think Dan Burn handled the pace of a player you know very well, Brennan Johnson. I thought he handled his pace and his movement really well. And it was a good example of a defender who is using his experience and his positional sense to mark a much faster player. There's been so many times you've seen defenders get done. In the past, Lascelles in particular get done because he's trying to go stride for stride with pacey players. That's not what you got to do. You just got to drop yourself a couple of yards, get a good position. And I thought Dan Burn was excellent there, to be fair. But you're right, guys. I think the midfield was absolutely superb. I think we said this on Monday night. I seen the tweet was just brilliant. It said Joe Litton plays like Yaya Toure, but finishes like Kolo Toure, which I thought was absolutely brilliant because that chance when he skipped by 4 or 5 players. And he obviously just spanned it wide, kind of a thing. It's that finishing touch that Joe Litton needs. But I think, as you say, mate, him and Bruno. I know Lingard was getting some shit. I was listening on TalkSport. He was getting some shit. And I was having a bit of a chuckle myself. But in all fairness, when Bruno and Joe are at it, arguably there's not that many better midfield pairings in the league in terms of the ability that those two lads have got when they're on song. So I think it was probably a tough game for Lingard and Colback and the rest of the Forest midfield. But yeah, I mean, I was really impressed. I thought we were dominant from the first minute. There was no point in that game I was worried that Forest were going to catch us out. As James says, that we got close to half time and it was 0-0. You're a little bit worried because it's Newcastle after all. Even though we're moved on from the old miserable times, you still think, Christ, we'll get done the break here. It'll be 1-0 because Forest did have some decent players like you say, Nico Williams, and Johnson had that pace, and he could always get in behind you. But I thought they handled it really, really well. Obviously, we're going to get into the next game at the weekend, which will be a different contest altogether after watching the way they played at the weekend. But yeah, I was very impressed, lads. And like you say, only one new signing played technically, if you don't count Target, and we still look strong. So, if we've got more to come, then it's exciting times, isn't it, guys?
Can I just say one thing on Lingard? I actually felt a bit sorry for him. I got to be honest.
I don't. He's a knob.
I do not dispute that he's a knob. There's no argument here.
I'm sorry.
He just we were so dominant. He just didn't have a chance to impress himself on the game. And I read an interview with Steve Cooper, and he was saying one of their biggest problems is they were always going to have a big turnover in the squad because they had so many loan players and so many people at the end of their contracts. They just thought that was probably going to be done in the Championship. So all of a sudden they've, that's why I think Lingard's on such silly money. It's such a big jump for them. It's such a big change of gear. So I almost, and emphasize the word almost, felt sorry for Lingard on Saturday, but not actually felt sorry for him.
I think they only had one decent performer in their team. I think their centre half was Niakate. I think he marshaled Callum Wilson pretty well. To be fair, Wilson didn't get much of a sniff in that first half. Look, he took his goal very, very well. But apart from that, to a man, if there were most than 2-3s out of 10, they were shocking. If you're a Notts Forest fan, you've come up all that way. I mean, you're going to be so disappointed with that.
Just a point on the Nottingham Forest fans. Obviously, James, you were in the pubs before the game, and I mean, class act. Really, I think they've really come across so well. On social media, they've been so complimentary of the city, of the fan base, and just to hear about mingling. And obviously, we've all been to games at St James's. And Newcastle is such an away fan-friendly city. There's so many cities that are so cold to away fans. You can't come in here. You're a Newcastle fan. Out you go and all that. But Newcastle's not like that. We welcome in away supporters. And I think it was great to see the Forest fans, kind of emphasise that, James, wasn't it? In terms of their positive feedback on the club and the city, really.
Yeah, it was, and I met quite a few of them on Saturday. I was out after the game till the early hours. I didn't get back till about 2-3 in the morning, actually, and I bumped into a few of them in the bars after, and just having a bit of crack on.
We didn't get any texts. You must have been all right.
Yeah, must have kept away from the Zambukas, look.
I've got a bit of a soft spot for that club. I'm a big Brighton Clough fan. What they achieved with 2 back-to-back European Cups, I don't think that'll ever be beaten again. So, in terms of, they are a great club. Great to have them back. How many years has it been since they've been out of the Premier League?
23, I think.
23. I mean, that's incredible. But as I was saying to them, these lads, so you can have a really tough season if things don't change very, very quickly. And they were all in agreement. But they did say, fantastic atmosphere at St James' Park. They'd experienced nothing like it before. And they were saying, very envious and very jealous that that's what you get every single week. And great to hear something like that. Massive compliment.
Absolutely. No, it was great, you know, and I think it just makes you proud to be a Newcastle fan, really, when you see that. But moving on to the next category then, guys, obviously off the back of this, fantastic bit of news, really, on the manager. Just come to you first on this, Di. Obviously the news that Eddie Howe's contract has been extended. There's no kind of definitive date. We were talking about this before we come on, weren't we? But, you know, he initially came in, I think you signed to 2024, but it's been extended possibly, you know, another 2 or 3 years or something. Do you think it's justified? I mean, Darren Bent, ex-Sunderland Darren Bent, has some real concerns about it, but we couldn't give a fuck what he thinks because he used to play for the Mackhams and he's a bit of a twat. So I mean, what do you think, Di?
If I wanted opinions on Darren Bent, I can't imagine I'd want his footballing money. I don't think he's the brightest lamp in the street, is he? God bless him.
He kicked the beach ball. He didn't even know what ball to kick when he was at the beach.
Absolutely. Exactly. Thick as mince, the lad. Thick as mince. Anyway, I think it's obviously great. It's obviously well deserved. I think there's a possibility that the club are thinking that he might get poached somewhere along the line. He has done such a great job. Sorry,
that's a corker. He must have been in a beer coma, Paul.
That's my best mate there, Paul. Great to have you on board tonight, mate.
Excellent stuff. Excellent.
Keep those coming, mate. We love them. Keep them. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, that's all right. Don't worry. I think it's good that it's happened. It's well deserved, and I think the club are just protecting themselves if some kind of shout comes in from another club or something like that. England, you know, I think
England possibly.
I was going to say I wonder if they're slightly concerned about the England situation. I wonder if they're slightly concerned that if, let's say, Potter were to go, there might be some movement there. So they're just defending themselves. Also, I wonder if there was some kind of clause in his contract that if he kept them up and was in a certain position, it kind of triggered a new deal. Also, I really like this is done, you know, in quite an efficient way. It's not kind of drawn out as we've seen with stuff in the past. We've recognised this is the guy we want who's going to take us forward. Let's get it done. To me, I don't care whether it's 2027 or it doesn't matter to me how long it is. He's tied himself. He's committed to himself to the club for longer. So the details of it are neither here nor there to me. I think it's a great move all round.
Obviously, Dan, what's your take on it, mate? Are you the same as Di? Do you think it gives that extra stability too, that we know this guy's going to be here for the long term as well? There's no worry about, you know, jumping around if he has a couple of bad results?
Yeah, just really echoing what Di's just said, to be honest. I mean, obviously, the initial contract was till 2024, and as you mentioned, there's no actual indication as to how long extra this new contract is going to be for. But yeah, Eddie Howe's come in and he has done the absolute best job we could have ever wished him to do since arriving in the situation that we found ourselves in when he arrived. And even, it took him a month or so to get things going before we sort of went on that run or started that run towards the back end of last season when we started picking up a lot of points. But it's just shown in the way that he's taken to the club, the way that he's transformed players like, you know, Joe Linton, for example, obviously being the standout one. And I just think that him signing this contract, you know, obviously committing his future to the club, it shows that the club have real faith in him. He has real faith in the owners and the club in terms of what their ambitions are. And I think just as a partnership, you know, him and the club working together, I'd love to think that one day we'll bring success, whatever that may be, whether it's league finishing positions, whether that's in the form of silverware. And, you know, he said in the recent interview, obviously, yes, we've got to be realistic with our expectations, but at the same time, he wants, you know, us as fans to dream, which it just shows that he is here and he wants to be successful with Newcastle and wants to be here for the long haul. And to us as fans, when we've heard absolute drab or nothing like that for God knows how long at this club, it's so inspiring and it's so fantastic to hear. And you know, we feed off stuff like that, and I'm just so happy that he's staying. And you know, obviously, you mentioned you know Graham Potter and the likes of the England job and what could happen there. I think if Southgate is or was to leave England, I know James would have an absolute party if that happened. I honestly see it being perhaps more Graham Potter who goes in there. So.
The way that's going at the minute,
I think, you know, obviously, I don't know what it is, but I think Graham Potter is the more likely of Eddie or Graham to go to England. So, you know, that would be Brighton's loss, but I think England's gain, to be honest, because I think Graham Potter's also a really, really good manager.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Back to Eddie Howe, just echoing completely what Di said. I'm really happy He's tied his long-term future to the club, and hopefully one day he brings us success.
Well, Mike's in the comments there saying he thinks it was for another 4 years, which is good. Just before we get your take on Howe Lynchman, we've got to pull this up. So Mark's in the comments there. Mark's not on tonight. He's having a night off. Wasn't just Ben Souness, it was Simon Jordan added to. Now, that is a bunch of people you do not want to be stuck in the lift with, isn't it? I'd rather...
What a brain trust, eh? What a bunch of absolute bellends.
I was just going to say that. I would rather open the doors and climb up Bruce Willis Die Hard style to get out of that lift than be stuck with those wanks. Honestly, my God. I'd jump out the window. And Davey said, listen to that shite too. Yeah, Souness, just a little bit on Souness. He was whinging about the club, James. He was whinging about the ownership. He was whinging about signing Anelka instead of Owen. I mean, what a prick Souness is, isn't he, mate? Before you get in the house, what a knob he is.
He's easily my most hated manager ever at Newcastle United. Forget about Steve Bruce. Forget about Steve McLaren, Alan Pardew. Yeah. Graham Souness is easily my most hated manager. I cannot stand the bloke. So to be honest with you, I didn't listen to what he said on the reasons that I just refused to listen to anything he says. But look, going back to Eddie Howe, it's great news. Yeah, I'm thrilled about it. I will hold my hands up here. I got this one completely wrong, to be honest. I was under the impression way back midway through last season, and I even said this to you, Chris, when I had you at the
You said it on the channel, mate. Yeah, you wanted Conte.
Said it on the channel as well.
Conte. Yeah.
I genuinely believe that Eddie Howe would probably only be here for 2-3 seasons at the most before the owners went in for a massive marquee name like an Antonio Conte or a Thomas Tuchel. But that clearly isn't going to be the case now. And look, I think if you analyse this situation and the timing of it, with it being halfway through the transfer window and near the end of the transfer window, we all know we have been hampered massively by FFP. It's affected us this transfer window, especially. We'll come on to talk about that next. And Eddie Howe understands that and is comfortable with that, which is a bonus. He did come out and say, didn't he, recently, that we are going to be hampered by it for the next few seasons. And if you look at the likes of Antonio Conte or Thomas Tuchel, as I say, they just couldn't operate in our current financial position. They would be demanding much more money to be spent. And clearly right now, and for a few more years to come, it looks as though we don't have the capability to spend the likes of what the Man Cities are doing, Chelsea's, the Tottenhams of the world. And again, Eddie Howe, he came out and said that it will continue to impact our ambitions in the transfer market for a number of years. Look, the commercial revenue just isn't there at the moment at this football club. It's virtually nil. It's virtually non-existent. And I do think it's going to be incredibly difficult to break into that top 6 over the next few years until that changes. And I do think that has been a major factor in the owner's decision to extend his contract and the timing of it. And I do think we as fans possibly have to temper our expectations accordingly when it does come to transfers, because I don't think we are going to be spending the kind of money that I was envisaging when we had the takeover back in October. I don't think it's going to be like that at all.
Yeah, it's a fair comment by Ash there as well. It's great he signed a new contract, but in reality, it means nothing. He can still be sacked or leave. You know, I always remember the Andy Carroll deal. I remember he signed a 5-year contract and then he was sold for 35 million about 3 weeks later or something daft like that. So, but it's good. It's good to have a bit of stability there. I've got to pull up some of these comments as well. We've had some crackers here just about Souness, Bent and Jordan. So Ash is saying the trifecta of twats. Throwing out Bogler, you've got a quartet of you know what. Absolutely superb. Davey's saying, I was shouting at the van radio, these guys are pricks. And he does say as well, the media don't want Howe to do well. I think there is a little bit of media bias about Newcastle, but it is starting to slowly turn, I think, Dave. We are hearing some better things from, maybe some of the lesser pundits, Danny Mills and people like that. So Jody Toon for Life is saying Sky will be all over Lampard and Gerrard, while the 2 best England managers won't get a sniff. Potter and Howe. Thoughts? Just to get your take on that, Di, as a Welshman who couldn't give a fuck. What's your take on that, mate? Do you think he's about right for that, Jordy Toon for Life, or do you not care?
I only care because we're in your group at the World Cup. I say your group, not yours. Sorry, but
Di wants Steve Bruce as manager, man.
Yeah, honest to God, the longer for what it's worth, I think Southgate's actually done quite a good job, and I think he's a victim of his own success to an extent. But anyway, I do think that England are on the way back. They've peaked on top of that hill, and I think they are slightly on the way back down now. So I think he won't be long. I think after the World Cup might be the end for him. But you're right, I couldn't give a shit who gets the England job next in any way, shape, or form. I hope it's not Potter, because I think Potter's a really good manager.
That'd be quite good, actually. Yeah.
So I hope it's not him if it happens. I think I like Gerrard and Lampard as managers. I don't think either of them are amazing. I could see someone like Lampard in the future maybe going for it, but again, I think he's doing a reasonable job at Everton. I don't think I think England's next manager will probably be Potter, but as you say, I couldn't. Once the World Cup is over and Gareth Bale has stood there with that Jules Rimet trophy, mate, I couldn't give it two shiny shits who's the England manager.
I saw his goal in the LA Galaxy, but I'll be honest, I fancied my chances to beat that fullback. He was fucking terrible. It was a good finish.
How much have you had to drink tonight? Hey, come on now.
Nowhere near enough. I've had a cup of tea, mate. Honestly, that fullback was woeful, mate. He wouldn't get a game for bloody,
You wash your mouth out about Sir Gareth. He was the best left back I've ever seen, that boy.
He was superb, yeah. So just one more Souness slag and comment. We could do a whole podcast on this. Souness basically admitted his feelings towards NUFC. He can't be fair and objective about us. Should Sky sack him? I think Sky should sack him anyway because he's crap. But it's pretty clear that the people at the top of Sky are former Liverpool fans, and that's why he's got the job. Because let's be honest with you, he's just pretty shit, isn't he? On the cameras, he's not charismatic. He doesn't. His view on the game is so archaic. He doesn't have a clue about the players he's talking about. I know he was a bit hard on Pogba. Pogba is a bit of a tip, but he was unnecessarily hard on Pogba because he didn't understand the modern day player. That's why he's not a manager anymore. It's nothing to do with Newcastle, just because he can't hack it, basically, is what it is. So BT's in the comments there saying if we brought Conte in, he would have spent so much money, we would fall foul of FFP, and that means we couldn't bring in any more players. That's probably a good segue, actually, guys, into the transfer talk. We have got some breaking news that was filled up in the comments. I'll have to go search it. But I think on the FFP side, we were talking about this, James, before. Come on, I know you've got something to say about it as well, but I think there's been a lot of talk on the FFP scenario by Eddie Howe, and I think a lot of the news has kind of snuck out by saying basically don't go too soon, so to speak, that if you blow your load kind of now on these transfer windows, well, sounded too crude there, you're not going to have enough money for when you need to buy players for Champions League. I know you're a bit upset about it, James, but would you agree that's probably a smart way to do it, mate?
Well, it is. And look, again, I said on last week's show, if you look at the business we've done so far, first and foremost, this summer, £60 million, 3 outstanding players have come in, 90 million back in January. So, already in the space of 7 months, the owners have put £150 million in the club. I did say I thought we'd get Maddison over the line on last week's show. It's been a week. Yeah. That's gone quiet now. Who knows what's happening with that? Starting to get a little bit more worried now with only 3 weeks left of the window. But again, and I said this on last week's show, you've got to judge the owners and you've got to judge this window on the 1st of September when it shuts. Now, if we get to that point and we've got nobody else in, it would be a poor summer. You'd have to say it would be a poor transfer window. Yeah. I really don't see that happening. More in hope. I still believe, and I'm still hopeful we'll get 2 more in. It's looking likely now that it's probably going to be the last week, isn't it? If it is going to be 2 more. There's so much business gets done during that last week, especially those last 2 or 3 days, especially gearing up to deadline day. So I'm going to keep the faith and try and be a little bit more patient. I'm a very impatient lad, though, as you know. But centre forward. Oh, yeah. So centre forward. This is my problem. Is I'm getting so sick of getting text messages off my mates every single day. I'm getting text. Who we're signing? Why we're not bringing any attacking players in? What's going on? And I said this to you, Chris, before we came on. It's mad to think it's been over 40 days since we've last brought a player in. Sven Botman on the 1st of July. That's the 10th. It's the 10th of August now. When you do look at that and you think, if you'd have said to me then, when we're not going to have brought in any more players by the 10th of August, you would say no chance. But the problem is we just went far too much. We put everything in this Ekitike deal, and that's kind of backfired massively. And again, we talked about this in last week's show. How do you convince a centre forward to come in and sit on the bench? That is the conundrum that we're having here. And there's no one out there who's good enough as well to take us to that next level.
Well, we have been linked to a few young players. Dan, just bringing you in on this one, mate. I don't know if you know much about this, lad. So Mark broke this earlier on in the comments. I've had to scroll back to get the Mark. Good man. It's on Sky Sports as well. I've just checked it out. So apparently there's a bid coming any day now for Gonçalo Ramos from Benfica. Young player. I'm looking at his stats here. in terms of his kind of goal to game ratio. 46 appearances in total last season, 8 goals, 4 assists. So I think he's kind of more of an attacking player that can play through the middle or play out wide in a front three. Dan, is that somebody you think would fit the bill? He's a fairly youngish player. He's someone who wouldn't command the game time maybe over Callum Wilson. Would you be happy to see that one come in, mate, if it's a reasonable fee?
Did he? I'm just out of interest. I don't know myself. Did he play in the friendly we played against Benfica?
I think he might have done. Yeah, I think he was quite nippy as far as I remember. He occupied the back four quite well. Found a bit of space. I thought he looked fairly decent. Mark's in the comments there saying, "Is he any good?" I think he looks fairly decent. He's quite mobile, Mark, from what I gather. Which, let's be honest, a lot of these players who come through the ranks of these kind of Portuguese sides are very technically good. So he can't be a bad player. I imagine from that kind of division. As I try to remember, is it Hugo Viana? My flashbacks there. But so what's your take on that, Dan? Would you be happy to see this lad come in? Does he fit the mold?
I mean, I can't say I know an awful lot about him, to be honest. But I'm
scored according to Ash. He scored in said friendly.
You know what? I'm going to look that up whilst we're sat here live. But as I said, I don't know an awful lot about the lad, to be honest. So it would be something I'd be going to a bit blind, and I don't feel as if I'd be qualified to be going to judge him accordingly. But
yeah,
I think as James said, we're getting to a stage now. Perhaps there's a few little nerves creeping in, but at the same time, we can't really judge us until the window closes. So, and I don't think we should. Again, if he or any other striker comes in, I will be happy and I will be very willing to give them the chance. Obviously, will they start? Probably not, because Wilson is, of course, number one striker at the moment. We know that. But,
yeah,
with Wilson's injury record, they're probably likely to get chances, especially if they've come in for a big money fee. So, again, if this lad comes in, credit to him. And if he scores goals, then we're all happy, aren't we? I think that's.
I've just had a quick look at his stats. He's got 18 caps for Portugal's under-21 side, 14 goals in that time as well. I mean, 35 appearances for Benfica in 2 years. He's 6'1". He's only 21 years old. I mean, he's the Ekitike mold, isn't he? Exactly similar in terms of.
You know what he did? He scored Benfica's opening goal.
There you go. The corner, the header from the corner.
Was that the corner? Yeah.
Which,
I just remember how
I criticised Nick Pope for that, but when I watched it back, it was completely Lascelles' fault. He lost his man totally.
Well, that's no surprise. Di, just to get your kind of take on some of the other moves. So there's 2 players we have been linked to. We did a video this morning about it. So one's Bamba Dieng from Marseille, who looks a very good player, very kind of Mane-esque in terms of the hard-working forward, bit of pace, can get a goal, can pop up in good areas. He plays for Senegal, so he's obviously learning from the master. And then the other one is the big name, which is Paqueta. Now, those 2 players reportedly are going to cost 50 million combined. Maddison is 50 million individually. So Ash is in the comments. He thinks Maddison isn't happening unless they have us over a barrel. They know we won't pay and they won't lower the demands. But what's your take on that move, Di? Would you be happy to see those 2 boys come in for 50 rather than one player in Maddison? Or do you think Maddison being proven is better option?
I think my honest answer is I don't know, which I appreciate is not what I'm here for. But I think for me, what the only thing that worries me about this is that I don't know. I wonder just how far down our list we are. Like at the start of the summer, we will have identified Ekitike, let's say, as our number 1 target. So who's number 2? Who's number 3? Who's number 4? Where are we now on the list that this Ramos boy, who cards on the table, I've known absolutely nothing about? Where's he on the list? Is he 7th? Is he 8th? For me, and I would say the same thing about Maddison. If he was our number 1 target, we would have gone straight out. And but I mean, do me a favour. I'm better than Chris Wood, aren't I?
Really is Mike right about that? Is he on the wind up?
To be fair, in the grand scheme of things, the boy is 21. You said compared to Chris Wood, who's I don't know, late 20s and shit.
Chris Wood's 41.
He plays like he is.
He does.
Yeah, I think that would be my question about Maddison as well. If he was our number 1 target, do we not just go out and get him, or do we think something has happened there? Agents got involved, or again, is it just a lot of chat? I just don't know, and I don't think. To be honest with you, I just like on what James said there. I would slightly disagree that it was even if we got no one else in, it would be a poor window. I think ultimately we need a year as a club to sort ourselves out, to get the finances together, to push for commercial deals, to bulk up our revenue, all this other stuff. We don't want to stand still, and I don't think that the signings that we have done that. I think they've actually just been quite intelligent, sensible signings, and I think that it will help us take a step forward. And I think if we get top 10, I know people are talking about top 6 or top 8 or whatever. I think if we get top 10 and we get our ducks in a row behind the scenes, to be honest with you, I'm not too bothered. And I would say the same thing in regards to the transfers. Look, if we get these two boys in for 50 million combined, I'd rather that than James Maddison probably. I think what I can see most realistically happening is I think we will get a lone striker, because that's someone whose ability to sit on the bench is probably easier to sell to that one person if they're there for a year. I would go for someone like Iheanacho, who I think could be. I think PK mentioned that in our group chat. I think
it'd be a good shout.
I'd be very happy with him to come and sit on the bench. I think he can get us goals. He's something different, but still has a lot of similarities along the line with Wilson as well. And I think if we get a wide player, that's a bonus. I personally think I can only see us getting one more. And if we end up with Paqueta and this other lad, I'm obviously absolutely delighted with that. But I really think this is just a year of consolidation. I mean, we saw before we started people talking about Pulisic. I've totally lost interest in the amount of screenshots that, like James said, that I get sent throughout the day. Have you heard we're going to get these? Have you heard you're going to get them?
It's me sending most of them. What about this, lads? What about this, lads?
Well, that's the thing. If I need transfer updates, I just wait to get a message from you, Chris. That's my transfer update.
That's a good too, mate.
That's what I think will happen. I think we'll get a lone centre forward in, someone who can pie off if they're shit in January, and then I think if we get a wide player, I think that's a bonus. But I really don't see us bringing too much more in, which I appreciate is not what people want.
Yeah, well, the fee for Ramos there is excess of 25 million, unless he's really good. I'm not really sure that that we are going to go for that. I think if I've got time to pull it up, obviously, and I haven't. It's gone now. Mark had it in the thing before, but it's all gone now. So I'll move on. But yeah, Paqueta is obviously the name that the other people are talking about, and that's been going right through the summer. I mean, Paqueta would definitely strengthen the team, but at 33 million quid, it's a good deal. But I think that'll take up a lot of chunk of change, as Di rightly says, and we might end up going for a loan strike. A couple of loan deals here mentioned in the comments. Davey saying, what about Hudson-Odoi and Conor Gallagher loaned? I'd love Conor Gallagher, especially with the Shelvey injury, but I don't think that Chelsea want to loan him out, because he would have probably been back at Palace, in all fairness, if that had been the case. Hudson-Odoi is a different kind of fish altogether, Davey, but I think he might end up at Dortmund, to be fair, because he's been talking to Dortmund, and they've got a real good track record with developing players. So I would see Hudson-Odoi over there. Stu's in the comments saying, I think the better players don't become available till the end of the window as the top teams shuffle the squad. That's a fair comment as well, guys, I think. We've got BT saying, Howe, when asked if he was interested in any Benfica player 2 weeks ago, Howe said, I think it's a very strong, good league, high technical style of players in the Premier League. So that's just a typical Eddie Howe answer, isn't it? He doesn't give anything away, really, in terms of that. L. Stapleton is saying, Hudson-Odoi doesn't look fit, carrying excess weight. Fucking hell, I better not stand up then, mate. If you think Callum Hudson-Odoi is carrying some timber, Jesus Christ. But yeah, I think these two positions are key, aren't they, as well? I think it's just, I think that we've got FIFA RTG saying here, without a front line worth of note, Newcastle will never get top sponsors. You're forgetting brands sell big sponsors, and they don't have front players to sell a company. Yeah, I kind of understand it. We spoke a little bit about that when we were talking about the likes of Gareth Bale and stuff way back when, about big names attract sponsors, and we do need sponsors. But I suppose just to bring you in, Dan, here, just on this one, mate. I mean, these two positions are so key that, I think to go into the season without strengthening, whether it's a loan deal, as Di says, or whether it's a permanent signing, I just don't think it's a good idea. I mean, Miggy's had a good pre-season, but Miggy hasn't suddenly become, fucking Sadio Mane overnight. You know what I mean? He's had a decent pre-season against, one or two all right sides, that were trying to get themselves fit for the start of their season. So to put the faith in Miggy as the right winger, I think is naive. And as a backup striker, I looked at that bench at the weekend, Dan, and Wilson, obviously great finish, as James rightly says. If he's injured, I'm looking at that bench thinking, where's the goals coming from there?
Well, I did look at the back of the programme on Saturday, and we only actually have 2 attacking players on it listed. which is, it is slightly concerning. It literally does say Callum Wilson and Chris Wood, and that is it. I think I agree with Dieng. I think loans will be utilised towards the end of the window, especially loans with perhaps an obligation to buy. I think that will help them get around sort of the not wanting to pay too much. Because eventually, with Newcastle, eventually the whole budget and the whole money will have to go eventually, with wages, etc. But right now we can't, because as much as the owners are rich, the club isn't, because of the way it's been drained, with terms of revenue and sponsorships for the last, 14 years. And the owners can't just plough loads and loads in on their own, because then obviously they fall foul of financial fair play. The club's got to sort of generate its own money, in terms of advertising and sponsorships, to be self-sustainable. And so that's where the money comes from. And that's why, even though perhaps our owners are a lot richer than, say, Man United's or even Man City's, they're able to continue to spend continuously, because, of course, they've got all that commercial revenue, which they can utilise themselves. So, yeah, I think loans will be used, because that obviously makes it a little bit easier. We haven't got to pay all of a player's wages, and there's an obligation to buy. So then, if we can then spend in the next window, we can then bring them in. But I think there will be a striker come in, and I think there'll be at least one more. I think a striker will be priority, and I think whether it's either an attacking midfielder or a winger, I think one will come in. As I say, I don't realistically think they'll want to spend any more than upwards of 40 million for the rest of this window. I think that's sort of their limit now.
That kind of negates these £50 million transfers. That's a good comment by Jeff there, just saying that the 5 sub rule, and our kind of our ability to take advantage of that. Di, just bringing you in, I know you want to add to this, but for me, the 5 sub rule, I think is totally top 4 heavy, really. If you've got a massive squad, that benefits you. If you're any team from probably 6 downward, the 5 sub rule probably doesn't really help you, because you haven't got that big of a squad in terms of quality. What you bring off the bench is nowhere near as good as what you got in the park.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I do think I was dead against this, and then we got taken over. I'm bang up for it all of a sudden. I do think it may not benefit us now, but it'll benefit us in 2 years. So I'm not too concerned about that for right now. I think we've all got to remember that this is a project. It's not going to happen. The days where someone would just come in and do a load of money are not gone. The one point I wanted to make, the guy there, I forget the name, sorry, who mentioned about the sponsors. I think what's worth remembering here is, however unpalatable it is, and I personally do find it unpalatable, the search for sponsors is not going to be a difficult one, lads. Without question, the first burst of money, if you like, is going to come from Saudi-funded companies, one way or the other. Whether that comes from sponsors on the front of the shirt, name in the training ground, all this other stuff that goes with it, all of that FFP buffer is going to be raised by something like that. And I appreciate it can't be companies linked directly to PIF. There's no way that they haven't thought about this. They will have a strategy to make this work in their favor. I know that costs regards the academies and women's teams can be offset against their financial fair play stuff as well. So again, ground developments, training ground improvements, all of this stuff will move that buffer. And like I said at the start, it just needs a bit of time for those barriers to be spread apart, if you like, so that we have more wiggle room as we come in. Yes, mate, I am.
Farrington's had a drink. He's had a drink. He's got a whiskey in his hand. You can tell that.
That's the way it goes, mate. That's how football fans are, very fickle by nature, mate. That's the way it goes.
It goes, man. James, just to get your take on this, mate. Obviously there's a lot of talk here about the transfers and the frustrations. I know you've had some of your frustrations before. What's your ideal end to this window, mate, in terms of volume of players, quantity of players, and type of players, and maybe a couple of names, mate? What's your ideal end to the window?
Well, I've always been a huge fan of Ivan Toney, a name that hasn't been mentioned tonight. I would love to see him back at the club, but I don't think we'll spend the money that Brentford want for him. Personally, Paqueta and a centre forward, this Benfica guy seems to tick all the boxes. I wish this had been announced an hour before the show so I could have done my research on him. But
I love catching you, Cole. Well done, everyone in the comments. He's sweating.
Absolutely, but I think if you go back to when Dwight Gale was allowed to leave the club, I thought everybody at that point, I think you guys did a show very shortly after that, you were all adamant, and I think everyone was, that we would never have let him go unless there was another centre forward waiting in the wings to come in. Because as I say, Wilson gets injured next 2 or 3 games, you're literally stuck with Chris Wood as the only recognised centre forward. That's a disaster. I mean, your prediction of top 7, my prediction of 7th, that drops down to probably 11th, 12th on that basis. So yeah, ideal end of summer. I'd love to see Paqueta come in and a centre forward on loan, but I don't know how much money's there. I mean, there's so many conflicting stories. You see different journalists come out with different figures every other day. Is it 20? Is it 40? Is it 60? Yeah. Who knows? I think someone mentioned in the comments before about Simon Jordan mentioned that we've got 500 million to spend over the next 3 years. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where he's got that from personally. That's probably been very optimistic. So yeah, it's a finger in the air, isn't it? I'm very much looking forward to doing this show the Wednesday after the deadline day, and we'll really get stuck into that and analyze how the window's gone, and hopefully by then we will have gotten 2 more over the line.
Yeah, just a comment there. What do you guys want to take this? So Ian Toon, trade even to you, but he's saying just a question, lads. But why do you think 40 million is the maximum we'll spend if the players? Yeah, you can take this one, Di. If the players are on a deal that makes sense and improving the team, we will spend more, in my opinion. What's your take on that, mate? Do you think that's it, Di? Just both 40 million is the ceiling?
I mean, give or take, yeah, I think it is. And I think the Swiss Ramble on Twitter did a great thread this week kind of explaining all of that. He did say that if a deal comes along, for someone amazing, there is that window to break the bank. It'll just have to be offset somewhere else. I think the figure of 40 million is just a ballpark figure so that it can comply with the current rules in relation to COVID and amortization and all this different stuff. So I think the 40 million there is just a ballpark figure, like Geordie Toon for Life says here, that if something amazing comes along, that's why the Maddison thing at 50 million might be doable. If they want it, they can jig the numbers around. I think 40 million is just a ballpark figure. I think the point is the point they're making is we're not going to go out and spend a couple of players and spend 150 million on them. I think is the point. I think we're just using 40 as a ballpark figure.
No, absolutely, I agree with that. Yeah, 100%. So moving on to the final category of the night then, guys. So the next game we've got coming up is the Magpies versus the Seagulls. So we've got Brighton next. Come you first on this one, Lynchman. This is going to be a different proposition to Forest at the weekend. We all watched Brighton comfortably piss on Manchester United, who I predicted to finish 3rd this season in my predictions. I don't know what I was smoking that night.
Unbelievable.
Somebody must have spiked my coffee that night. And, I just thought Ten Hag could have got a tune out of them, but they looked woeful, mate. But were Brighton really good, James, or were Man United really shit? Should we be worried about Brighton in our fancy new one-off kit we're playing in the Man?
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting one with a kit clash, isn't it? But look, yeah, as you rightly say, this will be a much tougher game than Saturday. Brighton are a really good side. I'm a big fan of Graham Potter. We've mentioned him a lot on tonight's show. I really like what he's done with them, with the budget he's had available. Look, they've just lost their 2 best players this summer in Cucurella and Basuma, but I fully expect them to have a good season, especially with the best part of £90 million to spend from the sale of those 2. They will definitely be spending in the next 3 weeks, mark my words. They look really good against Man United. I thought they were well-deserved winners. Mind, I think even Notts Forest would give Man United a game at the minute, the way Man United are playing. Man United are, I've never seen a club in terms of a bigger downfall in so many years, and they look like they could even finish outside of the top 10. I genuinely believe that. But look, Pascal Gross, Leandro Trossard, Neil Maupay, Brighton have got some good attacking players, and even Danny Welbeck still doing it at 31 years old, so there's hope for everyone. This game always seems to end in a draw down at the Amex. I think 3 of the last 4 there have ended all square, but I just think we'll sneak this one 2-1. Again, I just think we've got too much for them going forward with Wilson, Maxi Bruno, and Miggy, who is playing out of his skin at the minute. If we want to be aiming to finish 7th this season, which I fully expect us to be able to get in and around, we've got to be winning games like this. And it's no disrespect to Brighton, but I just think we are a level above them at the minute. I'd love to see us get all 3 points here, as we've got some really tough games coming up the end this month. We've got to play Man City and then Liverpool shortly after that, and I don't see us beating either of them. So look, if we go into September with 9 points, that's providing we beat Wolves as well. I think that'll set us up nicely for the rest of the season. So yeah, I think we'll win this one. Just tough game, 2-1.
Absolutely. We'll move on to the other boys' predictions there. Yeah, I know Jody Toon for Life. I don't know what I was spoken there, honestly. I'm never going to live that one down, I tell you what, honestly. My God. So just coming to you on this one, Dan. I know you're good pals with Charlie, the Brighton fan, mate. You'll be giving him some shit, I'm sure, in the WhatsApps this week, mate. But what's your take on this Brighton game? Are you with the Lynchman? Do you think this is going to be a real tough one for us, and a draw is probably likely the case, mate? Or do you fancy us to go there and get something?
Well, I certainly had a lot of fun last time, when he was here upon we did that live stream. I had a lot of fun that day. You know what? Yeah, Brighton, as we mentioned, Graham Potter a lot tonight. It's going to be a much harder game than Nottingham Forest were. We're going to be tested a lot more. Obviously they've started the season just as well as we have, going away and winning at Old Trafford for the first time, and I think it's their history. I think
yeah. Will be the first time someone wins at Old Trafford this season, though, mate. By the looks of that.
I know. It is an interesting situation at Manchester United, but we'll save that for another day. As much as I might find it quite funny. Brighton will be tough. As much as James says, they have lost two of their very best players. Graham Potter has got them playing football in a similar way to Eddie Howe. It is essentially total football. All the players, they fit together as a unit. They know exactly what they're doing. They all know their positions on the field, and they all gel together and work together so well. And with that being said, as much as we do that, Brighton do that just as well as us. And so going there, it's going to be tough. But I think that we have perhaps better goal scoring options if than they do. I think Wilson is obviously a fantastic striker. And I don't see Brighton having. Well, actually, I don't know. Danny Welbeck, he's not as good as Callum Wilson is at the moment. And so, with that being said, I think that we have more of perhaps a goal threat than they do in terms of our front three. As much as, of course, they scored 2 goals against Manchester United on Sunday, but I think if we can get Wilson in the game more than we did against Forest, and say Maximan and Almiron, either cross the ball or Almiron learns how to use his right foot, we'll get something from that game, whether it be a point or all 3.
I think I can learn how to master the guitar before Almiron learns how to use his right foot at the weekend, maybe.
You know what? As I said at the start of the show, Miggy had a brilliant game apart from his final product, and that his runs were brilliant. They
were. His movement was great.
It was fantastic. The Forest, the fullbacks didn't have a clue where he was all the time, and he was creating chances. It's just, I really want him to do so well because I have a massive soft spot for Miguel Almiron. I think he's a really, really likable character. He does so much running, and I just want him to do well so much. And I think if he does, he'll cement that right wing position as much as we probably will bring someone else in. I'd love him to have that nailed down because I think he works hard enough for it. I just want him to get those assists and goals up.
Absolutely. Well, we've got Ashes agreeing with the Lynchman. He thinks 2-1 sounds about right. Guitar challenge, Davey. I don't know about that, mate. Jesus, we're not having a live stream of that, mate. Bloody hell. And just before we get Dai's final take on the game, then we'll get mine quickly. Yeah, I'm not shitting on Almiron, Ash. I really am not. He did play well, mate. You're right. He just frustrates me with his decision making, mate. He's like it's a bit like Forrest Gump, really fast and runs everywhere, but doesn't quite know where he's going. Doesn't know where to stop, So I do hope he turns a corner and Eddie Howe gets him performing like he did, Kraft and Joe Linton, but I certainly reserve my judgment. So Welsh Wizard, what's your take on this game at the weekend, mate? Do you think that it's going to be a tough one, mate, a draw, or do you think we can get 3 points at the Amex?
First things first, most importantly, I do play the guitar, mate. So if you do want to have a live, guitar lesson, mate, I'm happy to do that for the viewers if they fancy laughing at you and probably at me as well. To be fair,
let's just get really pissed at you, Hotel California. That sounds good,
mate. I'm absolutely fine with that. So I think it'll be a draw. Look, I think Man United. I hate to say it, I thought they were actually a tad unlucky. They were shite. But they were a bit unlucky. They were ahead of Brighton in almost every single measurable metric. I think Brighton only had 2 shots on target and scored for both of them. So ultimately, that just shows they are capable of being clinical when they need to. So I think if we're strong defensively, I think we can kind of curb that. Man United had more of the ball, more shots on target. Won more duels, more clearance, like literally every metric Man United were ahead on, apart from the one that matters. So I do think there was an element of luck in terms of Brighton's win, which they need. But I also think they are a very strong team at home. They pass the ball well, they move the ball well. I think for me, it'll be a game of few chances, and I think whoever's the most clinical, again, obvious statement, will win it. I think I can see this being a 1-1 draw, which again, we always draw against them, as James said, and I think I'd be more than happy with that going into these tough games. I thought Wolves looked disappointing against Leeds on the weekend, so I fancy us to get something there. And then we've got those 2 tough games to come. So I think if we, similar to James, really, I think if we go into those games with 7 points, I think that'll be successful for us. But I personally believe this will end up being a 1-1 draw, quite a tight and scrappy affair. And if there is to be a winner, I think the game will be won in midfield who can kind of exercise their press the most effectively.
Absolutely. Just a comment there from me and Toon Trader. I've never known a Welsh guitarist. You lot are usually warblers on the day. What about Stereophonics, mate? Surely there's a Welsh guitarist in there, is that right?
There is, mate. There is, and for what it's worth, I can sing as well. I'm a multi-talented man. I would not, wow, I have not had enough to drink to do that for you yet. But believe it or not, lads, I can see Dan pulling a funny face there. Singing is my main instrument as it goes. So I will, I will not.
We need to get a new intro done. Dan needs to play Local Hero on his guitar. That'll be
I can play that on the guitar as it goes as well.
Oh, wow! Like, Mark's somewhere in the comments, mate. You have the new intro video. Come on.
Well, there you go, lads.
Shirt, mate. We'll get
before school starts again. I'll see if I can record something for the boys.
Yes,
good lad.
We'll get that. So I'm loving a bit of that. Yes, the channel has taken a new turn. We'll be having drunk singing contests with Diaries moving forward. So absolutely fantastic. Drink with Di. So just before I give my take, I had seen this comment from Stu, mate, and I could see you twitching there, Lynchman. What's your take on Lisandro Martinez? Apart from the fact he's about 3'2".
I think he's 5'9", isn't he? Which, to be fair, is unusually small for a centre half.
With his heels on.
Yeah. What did they? I think they paid 50 million for him. I mean, who's buying these players there? I mean, it's absolutely frightening. We all know Man United need 2 new midfielders minimum, and they're spending silly money on centre halves who are 5'9". So yeah, he was awful that day. It was a very poor debut. I think Gary Neville wasn't too pleased with how he performed as well.
Definite pen as well.
They're all over the place, Man United, and I couldn't be happier.
No love lost for Man United here, mate, with any of us, to be fair. But I'll just give my final take. Then I pretty much agree with what you boys are saying as well. I think Brighton, the Amex, is always a tough game. I thought Brighton might have struggled a little bit this season, as James said, lost star players, and I thought maybe that kind of getting figured out by other sides and stuff like that. But judging by that performance, I think Potter's very much just got them drilled the same way that he had the previous season. Brighton's problem is always scoring goals. They effectively did it at the weekend, but as you say, James, Man United were a little bit all over the place. I think anyone could probably get a chance against Maguire. He's just fucking dreadful, isn't he? But going to this game, this will be a tough game for us. I think in the midfield we edge it a bit. I think certainly about Basuma there. I think they've lost a lot of that grit. So I think with Joe Linton and Bruno, hopefully bang at it. And if Willock has the same kind of energy that he had against Forest, we could win that game in the midfield. But I'm going to sit on the fence like Di, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw as well. I do think it could pop 2-1 either way, depending on, obviously, if we can stay disciplined at the back. I think the same back four will start. I think Byrne will start against Brighton because of his knowledge of those players. I don't think Botman will get his start, which leaves it open to say, does he get a start against Haaland? It's with City coming to St James's, which would be a hell of a debut. Imagine he puts him in his pocket. Jesus Christ. So I'm going to that game now, lads. So I'll be very excited to see that one as well. So yeah, but for me, it's 1-1, I think, at the weekend, but it could slip 2-1 either way. But that's pretty much the time we've got for this week, guys. Thank you so much to everybody in the comments. It really helps the channel flow. Thank you so much to my merry men, the lads. Been a great show as always. And but stay tuned to the channel for Di's guitar riffs that'll be coming up very soon, because Mark's got it lined up already. He's gonna have a back catalogue of songs, I'm pretty sure, for you to strum away to Welsh Wizards. So I can't wait to see them. I won't be on them. I fancy myself as a bit of a crude after a few bevies, but I'm not sure the channel's ready for that, mate. We might lose subscribers. I was going to say. So, as I mentioned there, don't lose subscribers. Please gain subscribers by clicking like and subscribe. Help us to grow the channel. We're hopefully going to get over 1,600 subs soon, which is incredible. Since the channel's come out, we're still quite new, still quite a young channel on the scene, but we're really enjoying doing this, guys. And thank you so much for the positivity. Thanks, Ash, for that comment as well, mate. Yeah, great to have you on board as always. And yeah, we'll be back on Monday. Mark and I will be back with another What's Going On. We'll probably sneak in a match preview and a review as well over the kind of weekend. So make sure you check that out. And let's keep supporting that team, McCoy United. Bring on Brighton at the weekend, lads. And let's get another positive result. We'll catch you later.
See you guys.
Auf
See everyone.
Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.